Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. And this is Blooming. Hi guys, I haven't done a sit down intro video in a very long time, so this is very interesting. And I know I put it under vlogging series, but honestly that's just because I'm not trying to make a thumbnail, okay? Anyways, let me show you guys what I'm eating. I'm having lunch, which was yesterday's supper. This is basically biryani, and I sprinkled some mayo on top. Okay, so in today's video I'm going to be talking about my journey with religion and spirituality. Oh my god, I think it's such a long journey because basically this started when I went to varsity. So it's 6 years of a journey that I'm going to try to fit in a 15-minute video. Wish me luck. So let me give you guys a bit of background in terms of like my religious background and religious upbringing. So my parents are Christian, specifically SDA Christian, and I was raised, okay, before I get into that, actually let me be a responsible YouTuber. I know that the topic of religion and spirituality can be a sensitive topic, so I feel the need to make a few disclaimers. My first disclaimer is that I will reference Christianity a lot, and this is just because I was raised in a Christian home and I know more about Christianity than any other religion. Number two, I'm honestly just sharing my journey, and I understand that the journey of religion and spirituality is very personal, very personal, very close to a person's own walk, you know. So I'm just sharing my walk, and the last thing I want to do is invalidate anyone else who has an experience that is different from mine. If ever you hear me say anything and it feels like that's what I'm saying, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not invalidating anyone else's walk. I'm just merely sharing my walk. This is Blooming, right? This is a channel about being in your 20s and growing and discovering and all of that. And a huge part of that growing and discovering for me has been in the religion and spirituality part of life. But for the longest time I didn't feel ready to talk about it because, you know, like I said, it's a sensitive little topic to get into, but let's get into it. So background, I was raised in a Christian home, specifically Seventh-day Adventist. So when you look at Seventh-day Adventists, it's very like, it's one of those churches that like have a lot of rules, right? For instance, keeping the Sabbath, and very specific about how you keep the Sabbath. You know, for instance, you're not supposed to consume secular content during the Sabbath day. That means secular music, no. Secular TV, no. If you're watching something, you're watching a sermon. If you're listening to music, you're listening to church music. And that would be sunset to sunset. You know, things like those, amongst other things. There was a lot, right? But even though I was raised by parents who were religious, when I looked at my parents' actual lifestyle, they were more spiritual than religious. My parents, like, they didn't really do a lot of the, how religion influences a lot of your lifestyle, right? Yeah, my parents did not really do a lot of that. For instance, we didn't have daily prayers at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. We were allowed to watch TV in Sabata, listen to whatever music we want to listen to. Like, it was not that deep at my house. And I would hear about other people's houses and I'm like, oh God, it's that deep at your house? Anyways, so they were more spiritual. Let me explain what I mean by spiritual. They were more on the kindness. What I saw in my parents were the characteristics of what a Christian should be, right? For instance, I saw a lot of kindness. I saw a lot of generosity. They are both teachers. And my dad teaches, I think, in a Lokshin type vibe. My mom teaches in the rurals. So they were pillars of the community. If you're familiar with the landscape of what teachers need to do in the rural areas and in the locations, then you understand what I mean when I say they're pillars of the community. So what I saw a lot from them was a heart of compassion, a heart of empathy. They would never, like, they would choose love. They led with love, right? They would choose love over legalities, over scrutinizing the rules, over, do you know what I mean? Which to my little mind, when I was still young, didn't make much sense, because it felt like what I was being taught at church wasn't what we were living at home. For the longest time, I felt like my parents were hypocrites, and at some point I thought, like, you know what, it's my duty to bring them back. Anyways, guys, anyways, yes. So with that being said, I was raised by parents like those. But when I was still young and in the church, I was deeply invested in the church, okay? I believed wholeheartedly in everything that was taught, and I wanted to live the mission, which was to go ye therefore, that mission, go ye therefore to all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, all of that. So I was that girl. Now let's move on. The reason why I'm mentioning my parents is because as I grew older, I became more like my parents. I fell more over to their side. Cool, sharp. Now we're going to university. I started having questions. I honestly don't exactly know where they stemmed from, but at some point I started allowing myself to ask questions, which is something that I didn't allow myself to do, right? Because it felt so wrong to question God and to question Christianity and all of that. Then I just started asking myself, what do I want my gospel to be? And this, interestingly enough, was an idea brought to me by a pastor who was talking about, I think it was that time when we were doing #BeTheSermon, right? And the whole idea was that your entire life, your entire existence preaches something. You are sending out a message in the way that you carry out your life. Obviously, the point of that sermon was do everything to the glory of God. But it got me wondering. Even recently, Umbomi spoke about that we all have influence, whether big or small, whether to thousands or hundreds, but we all have influence because there are people watching us, and in everything that we do, there's a message we're putting out. So I started thinking about that. Uti, what message, what sermon do I want to be preaching? What gospel do I want to be putting out with my life? And I started asking myself, and I realized, Uti, I don't think I wanted to be the second coming or the spirit of prophecy or to keep the Sabbath. I don't think I wanted to be any of that. And this is when I was getting into like my interest in psychology and healing and just the realization of how much hurt people. And I just had this huge desire in my heart to have a walk that speaks on healing, especially mental healing, spiritual healing, and so that we don't continue the cycle of hurting people. And I was like, that's what I want. That's what I want my life to preach. That's what I want my gospel to be. That's what I want the message to be. I, quite frankly, could not be bothered about what Daniel said and how it correlates to what John the Revelator said, and then now where are we? And listen, maybe that's someone else's calling, that's someone else's gospel and message, but it's not mine. That's not what when I'm having a conversation with someone, I don't want to talk about, are you ready for Jesus? I want to talk about, how are you doing? What's bothering you? How are we evolving? How are we growing? How are we learning? How are we healing? How are we breaking generational curses? That's what I want to be about, right? So now I'm here, and every Sabbath I'm going to Enkonzweni, and we are being taught, the times are near, the times are here, and that is not at all slanganing with what I feel like I want my mission to be. Does that make sense? So church started very quickly feeling like there's a huge disconnect you know, between what I was getting at church and what I know I want, or what I know I'm interested in. Then I started thinking, so listen, this journey happened over 6 years, so like random thoughts came about at different times. So I started thinking, what if we're all right? Hear me out. What if everyone, in whatever they believe or in however way that they connect with the divine, what if we're all right? And this goes back to the whole thing of an all-knowing, all-encompassing, almighty God who can somehow be summarized into a Christian perspective, right? So I started thinking, which is more likely? If really, truly, there's an almighty, all-encompassing God that exists, which is more likely? Is it more likely that the Christians are right, they hold the absolute truth, and their experience and knowledge of God is the one true way of knowing God? Or is it more likely that everyone globally who has defined religion according to their experience probably experienced God in that way? What if the whole point isn't even what religion you're in? The whole point is your experience with the divine. And my mind started like playing around with those thoughts. And as that explanation started making more sense to me, let me say that explanation started making more sense to me, that like, I feel like that makes more sense, because our walks as human beings are so, in as much as our walks are very similar, but they're so different, so completely different. Who am I to invalidate your experience with the divine? Do you know what I mean? Like, you're like some Indian living in India. Who am I? You're some African Zulu person who lived here way back and believed in your traditional religion. Who am I to invalidate your God and your experience with God? So, you know, like, it felt very arrogant at some point, and audacious. It felt very arrogant and audacious to say that this is the one true way. It felt very arrogant to say that I know God in his totality. I know God so well in his entirety that I can invalidate anyone else who experiences him differently from the way that I do. I hope you guys, I hope you understand what I mean. Then I made notes. Then I started detaching from the idea of religion at that point. I was like, you know what? Listen, if there's a God, he's gonna have to speak to me. He's gonna have to find a way to speak directly to me, because I'm okay. I'm okay with hearing about him through the Bible. I'm okay with hearing about him through the church. I'm okay with hearing about him from everyone else. I'm gonna allow myself to experience him and see where that takes me. And if that journey takes me back to church, then so be it. But if that journey takes me elsewhere, then that's that on that. Like, I started, by detaching to religion, I guess I started being so afraid of the consequences of asking, of the consequences of allowing myself to explore, because there's also that scared yoba, how dare you begin to question all of this? It almost felt like lightning would just come down as soon as I asked the questions I was asking. Lightning would just come down as soon as I accept the journey of exploration, but I started letting go of all those fears and just truly allowing myself to be in the journey. And I guess that's where I still am. I think one of the biggest things that I dislike, I guess, about religion that I've discovered on this journey is, this is a big one. It's because you know, as human beings, we like to institutionalize things. We like systems and what's. Anyways, in the process of institutionalizing worship and experience of the divine, we end up putting practices and rituals in place. But these practices and rituals are there to serve a particular purpose. And what I don't like about religion is that at some point, we start focusing so much on the practices themselves and on the rituals themselves and forget about the purpose. A very big example for me is keeping the Sabbath, right? There's this verse in the Bible that says, the Sabbath day is made for man and not man for the Sabbath day. And for the longest time, I may be paraphrasing, but for the longest time, I did not fully understand that question. And rightfully so, because the way that it was just like this law that you have to, it almost felt like, okay, there was the Sabbath and then there was man created, then it was like, okay, man, observe the Sabbath. Whereas it was the other way around. And when I read the book, When God Said Remember, beautiful book, When God Said Remember, it speaks about the Sabbath day, but more than that, it speaks about rest. It speaks about rest, time to reflect, time to just be. And what I'm starting to get now is that the principle of the Sabbath is the principle of rest. It's the principle of just guiltlessly allowing yourself to not be consumed by work. But now, begs the question, is there any significance to Saturday? I mean, I was taught there is, but is there really a significance to the day Saturday, to keep the Sabbath on that day? So what if you adopt the principle of rest in your life, but you don't do it on a Saturday? And then what? Does that mean, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and it's those little things that I don't like about religion. I feel like we've put so much emphasis on the practices and not the purpose of the practices. And then the worst thing for me is to tie it to morality, that like, you are subpar, you are a sinner because you choose not to rest on Saturday, because you choose to work on Saturday, choose to write an exam on Saturday. And that was just like, I personally did not enjoy those things about religion. And the reason why I just subtracted myself from the entire equation is because I don't like the idea of being part of an organization or a religion, but pick and choose what I want to believe and what I don't want to believe. Pick and choose parts of the Bible that are true and are not true. So I'd rather just not even be part of it and just do my own thing. Do my own thing. And like I said, God will speak to me directly, and he does. I'm not going to get into that, but anyways. So in terms of where I sit now with my journey with spirituality and religion, I feel like I'm leaning a lot more towards my parents. That's why I mentioned them. I care a lot more about living out a life where I lead with love, with kindness, generosity. I want my journey to be about healing and just being a better version of yourself so that you don't perpetuate hurt. Number 3, I think I'm considered agnostic, if you think everyone is right. Yes, I believe that people who choose to be religious remain religious because it works for them, because it connects them to the divine. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I do believe in a higher power, and I do believe in the divine. I do believe that we are more than just physical beings. I do believe that we are spiritual beings. But also, more than that, I also believe that we don't have the answers to explain the spiritual world. As much as we want to think we do, I don't think we fully have the answers of the spiritual world. Maybe we have glimpses of it, and in our glimpses of the experience of the divine, each one of us kind of packages that differently, hence the different religions. But I don't think we fully understand the beyond, and I think I'm living a life where I'm accepting that for as long as I'm existing in this physical world, I'm not going to fully understand the beyond, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay. And that's why I'm okay with saying that everyone is right, because I'm not all-knowing. My experience and knowledge is very limited to my personal experience. So I could not begin to think I have an answer that is fit for everybody. So that's where I am. I'm agnostic. I really believe that everybody is right in whatever they believe in. Whatever you think works for you, honey, you are right, and this is what works for me. And then lastly, I want to sprinkle this secular religion. So I'm gonna put like snippets of this video, but I'll link it down below if you want to watch the entire video.
Secular spirituality is about, yes, all of that is true, but let's understand why prayer and meditation works, what it does to the brain. Let's understand why singing together works. Let's understand why rituals work to help us process emotions. Let's understand why stories are so influential to how we order our lives. Not to just disprove religion, although it will do that, but to separate religion from the underlying tool so that we can use that tool without the superstitious baggage. There's a reason that religions exist. There's a reason we co-evolved with religion. So rather than just throw it away as primitive, secular spirituality to me is all about uncovering the tool and using it intentionally without the superstitious baggage that we've kind of gathered through the centuries that have, all the truth claims that lie on top of that tool. And that's why I try to convince atheists to be on board with secular spirituality, because what I think that some people in atheist kind of culture are missing is that they're missing tools on the table that can help them create a more enjoyable, more meaningful life that they've thrown away because religion has kind of had the monopoly on that tool for so long.
But anyways, snippets of this video that says, that speaks about secular religion really caught my attention, because I feel like this person beautifully articulates where my mind is at right now. And the part that I particularly like is that religion has monopolized these practices. For instance, meditating is associated with a certain religion. Fasting is associated with a certain religion. Praying is associated with a certain religion. Worshipping, by worshipping, I just mean singing songs, is also associated with religion. But the same euphoria you feel at a church gospel is the same one you feel at a joyous celebration concert, is the same one we experience at a Beyonce concert. That exchange of human energy that we don't understand. We just feel it, we experience it, but we don't understand it. That moving in unison of human beings and the power that can carry, that does not belong to any particular religion. And I feel like that's the next step for me. Just like, these things don't belong to religions. These things have been human practices for as long as humans have been humans. And I will freely exercise them outside of religion, because I don't want to attach myself to a religion. I'd rather not. I'm okay with that. Also, number last, whenever we start, whenever we include humans and their flawed nature, things go sideways. That's also one of the reasons why I don't necessarily want to be part of any religion, because those systems put in place by humans will inevitably be flawed, and I'd rather not be a part of that. I'll also just remind you that this video is meant to share my personal journey with spirituality and religion. It's not meant to create a blueprint for anybody. It's not meant to invalidate anyone else's journey. I will reiterate, this journey is very, very personal to the individual going through it. I do not have the authority or the balls, quite frankly, to invalidate anyone else's experience. That's not the point. However, if you guys would like to have further conversations, you have questions for me, you have parts that are confusing you and you'd like to discuss this further, that we can do. That we can absolutely do. You can leave a comment down below. You can send me a private DM, whatever you like. And maybe I'll create more videos. Maybe we'll do lives. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's basically me. Yeah. I would actually love to hear about your journeys down below. Peace out. Thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends to like, share, subscribe.